Vivek, in today's conversation, I was just wondering whether we should touch upon the aspect of budgets, particularly investments which drive decision making with a project, and how we can prioritize those budgets. And when I mean budgets, I genuinely don't mean that a constraint in a budget. We can look at both the dynamics of investments. It could be an open ended investment, fine. There's no, you may have a client who says, I have no constraints, just go and do whatever you want to do, given that complete free hand. On the other spectrum, you may have a client who says that no, I only have this limited sort of funding, and this is what I will be investing in the project. So, in that scenario, as designers and architects, can we not explore a little bit on how we can really think on prioritizing the whole investments?
Yeah, I think professionally, hardly in the whole professional life, architect would come across a client who says it's open-ended budget. That is the we can think of a dream situation, But yeah, there is a possibility. But in most of the scenario, we will always have the limitation on budgets to spend on a project. So it is a very wise idea to allocate and decide on where you want to have a little liberal approach to decide on budget. Let's say like flooring in different stages of project or on structure, how much you want to spend on flooring or enhancements, windows. There are so many n number of things where you probably can decide a little liberal approach and you can decide where you want to reduce cost. Let's say toilet tile or even flooring material, which can be natural, equally good character-wise and technical aspects. But cost could be, let's say, from 50 rupees to 2000 rupees or so. So these are the areas where you, if you have a good idea where to have liberal opening to spend on and where you can go down.
So let's take just the open-ended. You said that it's a rarity. Let's assume we have a client who says, "Man, I have the money. What you want? Just go ahead and splurge," right? So in that scenario, for example, okay, you said about flooring. So you go to the best of best Italian quarry and get the best of best Italian marble. Those are one aspect. Okay. The other aspect is basically getting into the design and the design actually driving the need for certain decisions to be made.
Yeah, a few example I can put here, like one project, the Great Mosque in Abu Dhabi, where they have got best of best quarries to get their white marble, because the predominant character of the whole mosque was white, which is very dominant. So there it justifies. And another example I would give of a Matu Mandir where they have used this gold-plated glass fused disc, which has a peculiar impact on in terms of meditation and ambience created. In this situation, having open end really helps, I think. So, particular project or particular design-driven thing, these are the two dominant areas where I would want to use that facility. And one more thing, if there is a open-ended budget, I personally would spend more on getting good artisans, getting good craftsmen for our work. I would rather spend more money on the craftsmanship, paying more and getting good quality work done.
So I definitely agree with you, and I feel that if we have an open-ended sort of a situation, I think the investment could be driven more. You gave the example of Mahatma Mandir in Oroville or the Great Mosque at Abu Dhabi. I think it's innovation which drives, and here again the need to get the best impact. So for that, whatever is the best suited material, I will go and find a quarry, but
Yes.
not buy from what is available. Let me explore. So it could be driven in research. It could be invested more in innovation. I think that would be a good way to what to say, use the freedom which is given from an investment aspect.
Yeah, additionally, the design demand also sometimes.
Very true. So let's look at the other end of the spectrum now, where there is a constraint in the investment and budgets, which probably majority of the projects will have, or the client may have a limited investment. In that scenario, what would drive prioritizing? So whether it's services and the type of the building, or whether it's the need of the client.
Yeah, sometimes it may be design driven also, prioritizing budget on what you want to be little more liberal and on what you can reduce the cost. Uh, so there can be different criteria and scenario which will drive prioritizing the budget.
So, for example, the type of building, as you were just mentioning in a casual conversation earlier, that we have, say, a specific building type like a hospital, or it could be an airport, where a lot of services drive the whole tactical operation of the building or the functionality of the building. So a majority of the investment and attention would be going into those sort of services driven. Whereas if you take the houses, where it's completely free flowing space, right? So what do you think is in this aspect could be prioritized?
Yes, specifically if you are a little radical thinker in services also, if you are able to find out solution which is completely parallel to the existing and which takes little less cost, so you need to give more time and attention and R&D to do that. And in another scenario, if the durability is not a demand, like let's say you are building a temporary structure for a few years, might as well you can think of vernacular locally available material like bamboo. You do it, and whatever life of bamboo stays, the structure stays. So cost goes down radically.
So, in essence, we can say that if you have a radical approach, the cost constraints really may not matter that much, unless otherwise there is a building type which drives a certain investment.
I think.
As we were speaking about the type of buildings, Vivek, in the service element itself, there are some core services which are today an integral part of any building which you do. Probably it could be an electrical or a mechanical and plumbing, sanitation, these aspects. So when we are kind of prioritizing our investments, don't you think that these elements which are core and require to be not compromised, is important that we do not underlook those things just to get something better from a design perspective?
Definitely, Sachin. I think structural stability is one thing where you should not compromise fundamentally. And with that, let's say like giving few example, electrical wires, plumbing pipes, sanitation pipes, weatherproofing the structure.
Yeah.
These are a few areas where I feel as a designer and architect we should not compromise at all. Other things where like cladding materials, there are n number of range where you can really think of reducing costs. So Sachin, I think sometimes the cost constraints also drives clients to go towards the most commonly heard terminology nowadays in our profession, like eco-friendly buildings, sustainable buildings. So what is your say on this?
It's more of a jargon now, the eco-friendly and sustainable, which we certainly ascribe and subscribe to the theory, no doubt about it. But we need to understand, I guess, what we really mean by eco-friendly and sustainable, and how much willingness we have to really make sure that it's truly eco-friendly. And if we have to keep it eco-friendly always, there's a continued effort, whether it's a human effort or whether it's an investment effort, which needs to go into the maintenance aspect.
That's very important point, Sachin, I think, because if you take example of a mud floor, people are really liking mud floor nowadays, but don't realize it has to get maintained periodic, like let's say 2 weeks time periodically you have to maintain the cow dung and mud floor. Those kind of concerns we definitely need to consider.
Very true. And also, I think another conception which I feel is more of a myth is the whole idea of low cost. And when you say low cost, it necessarily always doesn't mean low maintenance also.
Yes.
Low cost always sometimes could yield or get into some sort of high maintenance.
That's very true.